All right. Well, this is last minute that I had to take over. We had a little bit of technical difficulty there in Halifax, Nova Scotia, but I wanted to give a shout out of thanks to Ann Edwards, who is typically on here with our show. Ann Edwards advocates for mental health and wellness in Nova Scotia. Ann was a reporter for a news station in Canada, a well-known reporter. She's a comedian. And she shows the lighter side of living with bipolar as well as a mood disorder. Now, as most of you know, in Canada, sometimes the resources in certain areas are limited. And Anne has done an incredible job in bringing awareness to being homeless, living on in her car for 10 months. I remember Anne, when I first met her, her first story with me was, all I could think of in my car for 10 months was having my own place with a little deck and a barbecue. And she made her way back to that dream. She was married to an RCMP officer for 17 years. She went to university. She's a daughter of the famous piano player. And I don't have my notes in front of me because, like I said, this is all last minute. But she was the daughter of the famous piano player John Roberts Owen. And if I said that wrong, I'll correct it in the notes there. But I want to thank her very much for trying her very best to get on tonight. She was so looking forward to this interview with Mike Pierce. So we're going to bring on Mike. He's a motivational speaker. He has a very interesting bio if you missed it. And I just want to read a little clip of it here. Mike bio, just while we're building a little bit of an audience. After a 20-year career in sales recruiting industry, Mike's life changed when he went to Antarctica in 2006 to run both a marathon and an ultramarathon, 62.1 miles. Since then, Mike has completed many other winter marathons in the coldest and highest climates on Earth. His stories have been featured on CNN, Sports Illustrated, Fox, ABC, CBS Early Show, ESPN, and many other national and international sources. Since this time, Mike's full-time profession has been a keynote speaker. Okay, you're thinking, why? Surprisingly, it has very little to do with cold weather or sports. Rather, it's about the disciplines necessary to be successful in difficult situations. People today face similar challenges as those who first conquered Antarctica. The question is this: are we ready? Mike will illustrate from polar history stories, several lessons that are a must for us to have today as we partake in our own expeditions at home and in the workplace. Mike holds his BA from the University of Colorado, Boulder in marketing and resides in, Mike's going to have to correct me on that one, CA, California with his wife, Angela. You guys, please put up some hearts and loves and likes and hashtag replay and share this in your news feed. This is Mike Pierce. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Rebecca. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming on. I had to throw on a little bit of lipstick and I was all ready to rock and roll.
It's called improvising, right? It's the world we live in.
That's right. That's right. And if COVID did not enhance all of our skills and force us into a place of new growth, and that's what I'm looking forward to listening to you talk tonight. So I didn't have a lot of questions and prepared left, right, and center for this interview. My gosh, I know she feels horrible. She's watching us right now from Halifax. Very humid and muggy. But anyway, Mike, so you're going to do most of the talking tonight, which I hope you're okay with.
I do it for a living, so I should be okay.
All right, then, as we say in Cape Breton, take it away, my dear. Let us in on your life and tell us about your story. I'm going to put you up on solo screen.
Okay. I spent 20 years as a headhunter, meaning I helped companies hire people. And in August of 2001, everything changed. I was on a business trip in a place called Bakersfield, California. It's in the center of the state. And I was there for a week. And I was driving back to my hotel at one of the end of 4 days, and I didn't have a book. And I'm a big reader. This is in the old days. I'm going to shock some of those listening. This is in the days when you could not take a device that I'm holding in my hand called a telephone and push a button and a book would show up. You see, back in my day, they used to make something called a bookstore. So I walked into this bookstore in Bakersfield and I see this photograph that I'm holding in my hand up to the screen here. This photograph was on the cover of a business book called Shackleton's Way. I had no idea who this character Shackleton was, and I had no idea what is the correlation between this picture and the real world. So I picked up the book and I spent maybe 10 or 15 minutes just looking through the book. And within that 10 or 15 minute period, I was hooked. And the hook of the story was this. Shackleton in 1914 hires 27 people. And the goal is very simple. The 28 men are going to attempt to sail to Antarctica, and then a small group of the 28 were going to cross the continent on foot. It's about 1,800 miles. Nobody's ever done it. Nobody's ever thought of it. And I was standing there in the aisle of the bookstore, and I was thinking to myself, the amount of courage and character and creativity that it takes to do things you've never done before is extraordinary. And it was attractive to me. So I bought the book. Then I bought another one, and I went bananas with it. I ended up writing a leadership course for my employer at the time using stories from Antarctic history because I saw the metaphors were very obvious to the real world. So I created this course for my employer. It became a hit within my company. And then I thought to myself, I got to get out of here and I got to take this to 10,000 other companies. Well, how am I going to do that? I didn't really have a whole lot of credibility. I mean, after all, I was just some recruiter guy that decided he wanted to be a professional speaker talking about Antarctica. So I knew I had to go to Antarctica in order to have some credibility. So in February of 2001, I signed up for the first ever Antarctic Ice Marathon. This was an event in Antarctica that had never been done before. It's an actual real marathon, 26.2 miles, that was going to take place on an ice shelf located 600 miles from the South Pole. Nobody's ever done it. Nobody's ever thought of it. Now, I, at the time, was not really a marathon runner. I had not run a marathon in 20 years. And so I'm really out of my league here. So I signed up for this thing and I went. And then a year later, I went back to run the Antarctic ultramarathon. And it really changed my life in ways I never expected. The comical part of the story, as if it's not already, was how I prepared. You see, I live in a place called San Diego. That would be California, not Canada. And there's no chance my wife, Angela, is going to relocate to northern Minnesota, Saskatchewan. She's not going to go to Siberia, which is really the coldest inhabited place in the world. No chance she's going. So that I had to train for this, but I thought, well, how am I going to do this if I live in this place called San Diego, California? I ended up talking my way into a commercial freezer, an actual, what they call a cold storage facility. It's basically a series of warehouses that companies rent space in to store things like frozen chickens, pizzas, French fries, whatever it happens to be, goat serum. I mean, they've got all kinds of stuff in there. And I ended up training in this commercial cold storage facility for 2 years. And the interesting part of that story was, people ask me the question, was it cold? And I'm like, it's called a freezer. I mean, they kind of left us a clue, right? I mean, yeah, it was cold. It was 22 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. That's pretty cold. But that wasn't the hard part. The hard part of the freezer was the fact that from one end to the other, I only had 59 feet. For those of you watching that use the metric system, that's about 18 meters back and forth and back and forth. I mean, for hours and hours and hours. And people are sitting there going, you got to be out of your mind, right? Just the monotony of going like this. And I was doing this and I was in the freezer one day and I thought about this and I thought, this is absolutely over the top insane. And then I had a flashback. I thought, wait a minute. I can look at the freezer like it's really monotonous and it's really hard, or I can look at it the way I was taught by my hockey coach in 1976. I grew up in a city called Allentown, Pennsylvania. It's about an hour from Philadelphia. And it was a Thursday night hockey practice. The Canadians will appreciate this because it's a hockey story. So I'm on the ice and I'm practicing and my coach skates up to me. And my coach, Ed, said this, Mike, you're going to play the game the way you practice. If you choose to make the practice harder, the game goes easier. And he skated away. That was a 15-second encounter at best. Little did I know at the time, 15 of the most important seconds of my whole life just occurred right then and there on the ice during a random hockey practice in 1976, because what Ed taught me was that difficulty is relative. And that difficulty is something I should see as an ally, not as an enemy. Ed taught me to embrace difficulty, not move away from it. And that paradigm shift changed everything. That paradigm shift caused me, every time I went inside that freezer, because remember, I spent 2 years in that freezer just going like this. And most of the time that I did this, I actually was looking forward to it, because I knew if I changed my paradigm about difficulty, it would change the results that I would get. And it worked, because when I got to Antarctica, it took me about 7 hours and 15 minutes to run the marathon, and it took me about 17 and a half hours to run the 100K. But when I was finished, my instinctive thought was this: is that all there is? In other words, 7 hours seemed more like 7 minutes. 17 hours seemed more like 17 minutes, because I changed my paradigm. And I changed it to really embracing the challenge and the difficulty. And little did I know that this paradigm shift would not only allow me to run a marathon and an ultramarathon in Antarctica, but it would come back to serve me in a way that I didn't expect. And the preface to the whole story is this: my wife, Angela, when she was in college, she fell off of a mountain. She broke her bones in almost every single place. And that's why I ended up going to Antarctica. Now, people ask me the question, what's the correlation between an accident and Antarctica? Well, I'll answer that question in the form of a story. So now it's December 24th, Christmas Eve, 2018. Angela's in the hospital, and I visited her for most of the day, and now it's time to come home. It's about 9 or 10 o'clock at night now. This is in San Diego. So I drive home. I walk into my house. Remember, it's Christmas Eve. There's no lights on in the house. The house is pitch black. It's also quiet because nobody's home. It's dead quiet. Like, it's so quiet, it's loud. So I walk upstairs in the dark and in the quiet, and I'm standing there and I'm thinking to myself, okay, when this episode in the hospital is over, is she coming home with me or without me? For the first time in 30 years, I really questioned whether or not she was going to come home. And this is hard, because this Angela is the first person I ever dated in my whole life. Like, outside of this, I don't know anything. We've been together for more than half of my lifetime. And so I'm standing there in the dark, and I'm telling myself this. And then I thought about my hero, Ernest Shackleton. When Shackleton got back from Antarctica, he took 3 trips to Antarctica. And when he got back from his third one, they had been stranded there for 2 years, and they all made it back alive. And this is what he said when he returned. He said, "We had seen God in his splendor. We heard the text that nature renders. We had reached what he called the naked soul of man." So I'm standing there in the dark in my house on Christmas Eve, and I'm thinking to myself, what is the naked soul of man? The naked soul of man is the place in life when difficulty is just caving in all around you from every side, and there's nowhere to hide. I mean, let's face it, when you're naked, you're exposed. And so I'm standing there, and I thought to myself, how did Shackleton get out of this? And then I remembered this photograph. This photograph was the original photograph I saw on the cover of the book when I first got introduced to the story. This photograph teaches us the importance of letting go of things we have no control over, i.e. the ship that's stuck in the ice. and take and grabbing a hold of the things we do have control over, i.e., this activity. And so the whole point of this picture is to let go. And I thought to myself, you know how I'm going to get through this episode with Angela? I have to let her go. I have to let her go, meaning whatever the outcome, I can be okay with it. And that was really hard. That was the hardest decision I ever made in my life. To let go of somebody that I've spent more than half my life with is really, I mean, much harder than running a marathon in Antarctica. So I'm standing there and and all this stuff's going through my mind. And I thought to myself, this is why I went to Antarctica. This is why I fell in love with this character named Shackleton. This is why I spent 2 years of my life inside a commercial freezer going like this, back and forth. I did that to prepare for the most difficult and most important moments in life. And then it really hit me, wow, this is like, and this was 15 years after the fact, because in 2018, I hadn't been to Antarctica in a long time. But I didn't realize at the time why it was that I went to Antarctica. It took almost 15 years after the fact to really understand that. But that's how life works sometimes. Sometimes we don't have insights into things until years after the fact. But it really, I'll tell you, Antarctica really changed my life. And I see the benefits of, studying my heroes and all the things I did. I see those benefits still paying a reward every single day. And that's pretty much the whole story. There's really not a whole lot else to it.
Wow. Well, when I found out that you were, first of all, I'm Ann.
Yes, hello.
Hi, Mike. How you doing? From Halifax, Scovenosha.
Very cool.
Have you ever heard of it?
Oh, I've heard of it. Nova Scotia is one of the only places I have not been in Canada. I've been in New Brunswick. I've been in most of the other provinces. I haven't been to any of the territories, but Nova Scotia is one that's on my list. I really want to get there, and I'm sure I will someday.
Well, when you come, you have to go to Halls Harbor. You grab some lobster. Don't buy it there, but bring it with you. Go on the beach, get a bunch of rocks and a big pot and throw it in and have a beer.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'd be a good trip. Well, thank you, first of all, coming on to the show. I guess my first question is, what are the most important moments of your life?
That's a good question. I think the most important moments are divided into a couple of categories. I would say number one, doing the things you really love to do. And what I found is that generally speaking, the things that are the most rewarding in life are when we're helping other people.
Yes.
So I think to find opportunities to take whatever you do and make other people the recipient of whatever you're doing. So I think that's one. I think two, spending time, not just doing the things you love to do, but doing them with the people you like to do them with. And one of the things, for example, that Angela and I learned very early on in our marriage, this was probably 5 years into our 30 years. Somebody gave us this advice one day. I still remember this. His name was Sherman Davis. He looked at me and he said, Mike, invest your money in memories, not in things, not in things.
Yep, I agree.
And I'll never forget that. And Angela and I we have been around the world. I mean, we've been very fortunate. We've seen Japan and Ireland and Canada and some very cool places when we had very little money. And we found a way to see the world. And we found a way to see a lot of the states, here in the United States and a lot of places. And those memories are impressed right here forever, whether we see another picture or not. Angela still talks about one of her greatest memories ever was going to your country, on the other side of the country. We went to a place. We went to a place called Sook, Sooke. It's on Vancouver Island. It's really a cool little town. It's right on the western coast of Vancouver Island. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, we still talk about that, right? So
that's
those
awesome.
Memories are our life. So those are the two things that I consider to be most important moments in life.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. Describe how endurance has played a pivotal role in your life and we'll just give me a minute. Just give me the Google definition of endurance in your words.
Well, I would say endurance is best defined by this character. Okay. My favorite animal in the whole world. The emperor. Now, what's interesting is this animal, literally, that I'm holding here in front of the camera, he went to Antarctica with me. I took him to Antarctica. His name is Pace, the penguin. And here's why he went with me. Because this was how I ran the events. If you look at these animals, these are the definition of endurance because they never stop. They just keep going. Now, here's the caveat. They don't go fast, but they go forever. And I think that's the ultimate definition of endurance, the ability to keep going and going and going. Whether it's in your mind or in your body or whatever it is, just the ability to go and not stop. These guys never stop. But they're able to go the distance because they pace themselves. They go fast enough to make progress, but not so fast that they burn out. And I think this is something really important in life. You know, people look at, if you're career burnout and job burnout and all this other stuff, that's largely preventable. See, the problem in business is this. Companies, because of greed and self-centeredness and selfishness, I think push people. And they push people at a pace level that they can't sustain. So instead of going like this, they force people to go like that. And you can't do that forever. You can't drive your car like that. You'll burn out, right? You can't do that. Your body, your mind, your heart, it will just give out. And so I think, to me, the ultimate definition of endurance is the ability to continue to go indefinitely
at a pace
that's fast enough to make progress, but not so fast that you can't finish the race.
Yeah, that's interesting. So how much is your stuffed animal?
I know. Somebody told me, Mike, you want to develop your own caricature and sell him. Yeah, I take this with me every business trip I go on. He's with me. For example, Oh, he sits up next to my hotel. He sits right on the table next to my bed. Yeah. Like, for example, on Monday, I'm going to Knoxville, Tennessee, because I have speaking engagements there next week. He's going. He goes everywhere. He goes on all my business trips. I just throw him in the suitcase.
Does he go to the bathroom though?
Nah. I can handle that one. I've learned how to handle that one. I don't need his help for that.
What if he needs you and you're not there?
Well, I still think about the concept. I mean, I think about the idea of pacing myself all the time. All the time.
Resilience. Could you give us the definition of that word and explain how you have implemented that in your strategies?
Resiliency, to me, is a muscle in the mind. I literally picture this. And it's a muscle that allows you to defend against an enemy. And the enemies are numerous, right? The enemies can be boredom. The enemies can be COVID. The enemies can be your own body, your own health. They can be other people. They can be your business is down, right? There are all kinds of enemies, business enemies, family enemies, personal health enemies, all kinds of enemies around us that are constantly attacking us.
Right.
To me, resiliency is the ability to keep going and fighting off those enemies and managing them. You can't make them go away, but you can manage them, right?
Okay.
And, to me, that's where this photograph comes back into the picture.
I know, it's beautiful.
This picture is, you talk about a picture being 1,000 words. This picture is tens of thousands of words, right?
Yeah.
Because resiliency happens when you let go of the ships and you focus in on what you can control, right? I can't be resilient if I'm spending all my time trying to saw ships from the ice. The ice here around that ship was more than 6 meters thick. And at 6 meters. And at one point, these guys had hand saws, like literally trying to saw through the ice. I mean, you talk about what's the word I'm looking for? You talk about Yeah, but you talk about something that's not going to work. I mean, that is futile. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. Okay.
Trying to saw that ship out of the ice was pointless because there's no way it was going to happen. Wouldn't matter how fast they went or how powerful the saw was. It's not going to work. And I think in order to be resilient, you have to let go of the ships. Let them go.
Let them sink.
Yeah, let it sink.
Yeah, let them sink.
Yeah. Focus on the things you have control over.
Right. That's
and
so
your ability,
hard.
your ability to be resilient goes up significantly because you're spending your time and your effort on things you can actually make a difference in, not things you can't. So this picture and this guy go with me. They will be in the suitcase going to Knoxville.
Excellent. So the question I have is, how do you raise a resilient child?
Boy, this is a really interesting discussion. What's interesting about parents? When you look at the world today, honestly, mom and dad are both 90% of the solution and the problem. I'll give you an example from my own life. The best habit I ever took on in my whole life occurred at age 12. I signed up for a morning newspaper route. Okay, I grew up near Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I used to get up 7 days a week. This is for 8 years. Okay, 8 years. I got up.
20 when you were doing the newspaper route?
Yes, I had a newspaper route when I was 11. I signed up for it when I was 11. Okay, and I did it for 8 years. I got up between 3:30 and 4 o'clock in the morning every day. Christmas Day, New Year's Day, sick days, every day, 7 days a week. I was up.
Wow.
And I will tell you, that habit is the best habit I've ever picked up in my whole life because I still, to this day, see value. I get up every single day around 4 o'clock in the morning. I just get up. And it's to my advantage because I live in the Pacific time zone. So when I'm calling people like you, over in the Atlantic time zone and the Eastern time zone, I'm already 4 hours behind. So if it's 4 in the morning, I can call you, right? Because it's 8 o'clock in the morning. So it really helps me. But more importantly, I think to answer the question, I think you have to let kids get involved in things that are challenging. And there's kind of this resistance you see among parents to, I don't want my kid can't get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, go out in the dark and deliver newspapers. It's dangerous out there. They're going to get stolen. They're going to get run over. They're going to get into trouble. You know what? Let the kid figure it out for themselves.
That's right.
You know? I mean, as I always say, the kid will put his hand on the hot stove one time in his life, one time, and he'll never do it again. So let the kid put his hand on the hot stove, metaphorically speaking, let the kid burn his hand,
Yeah. Learn.
Now what's funny is I literally, as a kid, put my hand on I literally stood on the floor. I still remember this, reached up my hand and put it on the top of the stove and it was red. Okay. I did that as a kid. So I'm not advocating let the kid burn his hand off. But the point is, let the kid stumble and fall. Let the kid make some mistakes. They'll figure it out. I think that's the best way to raise a resilient kid is let the muscle of resiliency be developed by these circumstances that are challenging.
I stuck my finger in a car lighter.
Oh, Rebecca.
Okay, she wins.
One time in your life, right, Rebecca?
My story trumps yours, Mike. Take that.
Oh my gosh. But you only did it one time,
and I had
right?
I had the circle on the end of my finger because I just had to, my tenacity, I just had to see what would happen if I touched that cigarette lighter and it had the circle on it for like weeks.
Oh.
But you did it once.
You got burned.
Only once. Right, Rebecca?
But
one time. See, there's my point. She only did it once. You're only going to put your finger in the car lighter once or on the stove once, right? So let the kid figure it out. Let the kid run into the wall and fall over and make mistakes. I mean, let them fail the test. I mean, let them try something they can't do. Let them try it, There's sort of this mentality of, well, we got to keep the kids safe, don't let them flunk a test. Don't let them go out and try new things and fail and fall over. And hey, I'll tell you, I fell over all the time on the hockey rink. I got crushed by people that were twice my size. It works, I mean,
So my question is, what would be 7 skills to build for resilience?
what are 7 skills to build for resilience?
And I have a list, so I'm going to see if you get sort of close to my list. So you go and then I'll go. Go ahead.
I didn't know I was taking a test.
Well, I forgot. It's at the end, but I decided to do it now.
Okay, I love it. Okay, I love it. Okay, let's see. 7 skills.
Okay, 7. This is the question. 7 skills to build resilience. Go.
I would say number 1, get involved in difficult circumstances. I think you've got to subject yourself to things you've never tried before that are difficult. Difficult meaning from an ability standpoint, difficult from it being foreign. I've never done it before standpoint, right? It might just be new to me. I think you have to subject yourself to difficult circumstances, number 1. I would say number 2, don't be afraid.
No. You one at a time. One at a time.
I did. That was number 1.
My turn, though. It's my turn.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're back and forth. Yeah. I got you. Go ahead.
If you don't play my rules, you can't play.
Okay, you're up. Go ahead.
LOL. Okay. Mine's remain calm. Today, Leanne phoned me and she goes, how you doing? I said, not too good. She goes, well, write everything down. And Rebecca says, go to the fridge. Be calm. So that when I feel that I got this emotion going on, I'm going to write things out on. So if you come into my place and you see sticky notes all over the place, I'm okay.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
That's my one.
It's called a vision board. Mike, tell her the benefit of a vision board. I am trying to teach her the benefit of a vision board because a vision board, my kids are addicted. They know that if I put something on the vision board, God help us, it's going to happen. So now I have like all these posters of I want a bike. I'm going to own a bike. I am going to go to the playground. Like my kids get it finally. So the vision board is it's creepy, it's weird, but it works.
Hey, whatever works, right? Okay, so am I up for number 2? Is that where how we play?
Number 2, and you're running out of time. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay, I would say number 2.
No, we got time. That's the thing about ripple effects. We're in Canada. No. Keep going.
Number 2, let go.
Let go.
Let go of things you have no control over.
So much bullshit. And that's where you hold your weight. Yep.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Rebecca.
That's number 2. Rebecca?
Okay. Let go.
Is she playing the game? Is she playing the game too?
I don't
know. No, but I'm just commentary.
Sitting there, knitting.
Okay. Okay, so that's my number 2. So you're up. You're up,
my name's Annabelle, really. My friends call me Annabelle. If you like me, if you don't like me, then you don't call me at all, really. There you go. Use your body as...
Let go. Amen. Let go.
Yeah. Use your body as... I can't read my own writing. Use your own body as a way you're feeling. Like you have to kind of like... Okay, when you wake up, it's kind of like you're in kind of 1 or 2 different moods depending on your personality or what you're going through. So you got to look at your feelings and you've got to examine, why am I reacting this way to this that is happening? Why am I always angry? Why am I always so such a soft heart? Whatever those feelings may be, you got to check yourself first and then figure out, what's going on. Like, don't be so concerned with other people. Excuse me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Rebecca, any commentary before I give number 3?
No.
Mayday. This is Cape Breton Island, Nova Scotia. Mayday. We do not have the Wi-Fi like you do. Mayday. Go for it, Mike.
Okay, I would say number 3, pace yourself. Be quick, but don't hurry. There's a big difference.
That's tweetable.
Being quick and hurrying. There's a big difference. And if you don't know the difference, it can do damage. So be quick, but don't hurry.
And could you give us an example in your life?
Yes. I mean, just how I got into my business as a professional speaker. I wanted to do this since Friday night, December 16th, 1983. It was 8:10 p.m. Mountain Standard Time in Estes Park, Colorado, when I made the decision. Literally, I still remember this.
Yes.
It took me more than 25 years from that point to do what I do today, because I had to be patient. I mean, I had to put myself in a position measured in a number of different ways to actually be able to do what it is that I now do for a living. I couldn't do it prematurely. And so I had to be very patient. I wanted to be quick about it, but I didn't want to hurry it, because when you hurry, you make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And when you make mistakes, there are accidents and there's all kinds of problems that some cases you can't recover from. So that's an example.
Thank you. Embrace change. Change, especially with the COVID-19, the pandemic, and what's going on in the world. I don't really need to talk about it because I don't want to. Just change. Like, change is good. Change is good because, like the caterpillar changes into the butterfly. And if you look at nature and you look at the way God has created our world, and the way we should respect people, and the way we should honor thy Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And I just found my religion or God or spirituality, I don't care what you want to call it, it's great.
Right.
And it changed my life, because I used to be very self-centered. I like to be, the life of the party. I like to be, I'm an extrovert living in an introvert world because of the COVID-19. And we need to adapt, not just, for businesses and things like that. But I mean, look at cycling now. Everybody's got these trails and everybody's out biking. In Toronto alone, there's 60,000 people biking right now.
Wow.
To McDonald's. No, I'm just kidding. They're biking. And, there's different things that will stay with the COVID and or not. And I think what we need is right now is to embrace it.
Okay.
Next, number 4.
Number 4, I would say, do what you can't. Do the things you can't do. Sign up for things, try an example. One of the things I'm seeing in my business is an interesting shift. I mean, I've been doing what I do now, telling stories for 12 years. But now I'm discovering what I want to spend more of my time doing is helping other people tell their story. So this started last year. This started last year in Las Vegas. What happened was I was sitting down with a CEO of a construction company. And he said, hey, I'd like to tell you our story. And it's a very compelling story. And so I listened to his story and I said to him, you know what? That story should be a documentary film. And he looked at me and he said this, can you do that? And I said, of course I can. Now you have to understand something. I can't spell the word film. Okay, you talk about doing what you can't. Okay, I'm not a film guy at all. I don't even have the patience to watch a whole movie. Ask wife. I said, of course I can. So I said, tell me how much this is going to cost me, and I'll send you a check. And I thought, oh shoot, he's going to send me money. If he sends me money, then I'm on the hook, right? Because when they pay you, you're on the hook. And so he sent me a check, and I'm looking at the check, and I went, holy cow, how am I going to deal with this? So I knew I had to get this on film. So I came up with this idea to shoot this corporate film called For the Fighter in You. And so it's about the fighter, the human spirit that fights inside everybody, fighting for what's right, fighting for second chances. And that was going to be our film. And I called my camera guy. He's a kid, a 21-year-old kid who lives in London, Ontario. His name is Josh. He's really good. And I said, Josh, you're coming to Vegas. And he said, why? I said, we're shooting a corporate documentary film that we just got paid for. He says, well, I've never done that. I said, well, you're going to get a check, so you better come. So, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, this is a little bit like an episode out of Two Clowns and a Camera. Really, we're like, we've never done this in our life.
And
but but I knew what to do because I have a knack for telling stories. And I knew Josh also has the same knack. He's got a real eye for stories. And so we flew to Vegas, we filmed it in December, and we just finished it about a week ago. So
congratulations.
That's an example of, do the thing you can't. That's another example of how to be resilient.
That was a great answer. I'm glad I didn't have to go to the bathroom. I'm just kidding. LOL. Okay, the next one. I did, what am I, number 4? 1, 2, 3. Nourish yourself. Sometimes when you're not feeling all the best, you kind of, when you're in depression or you're in maybe mania or psychosis or whatever you're in, you tend to not take care of yourself. And I find personally, I'm just talking about myself because I like to do that. I'm just saying myself, I don't eat. And I could go a number of days and then it affects. If maybe you could speak on that a little bit more to help me, because I don't know how to get the structure back, because I was homeless living in my car for 10 months to being able to go to the fridge. I mean, I've got air miles now going to the refrigerator. I've been going so much in the middle of the night, oh, I'll have a snack. It's only 3. You know what I mean? My whole rhythm is, I slept 21 hours the other day. So, and somebody said, well, that's not really, there's not much we can do. And I said, well, that only leaves me 3 hours left in the day.
Mm.
If you're sleeping 21 hours, like how many more hours do you have left?
Right. And then, you don't need a calculator to figure that out. It's 3, right? There's only 24 in a day. Yeah.
Could you maybe,
unless the Canadian day is different than the American day, I doubt that.
Just the time zones. Maybe you could just comment. I know we're doing the thing, but just comment on that for me personally, if you wouldn't mind.
I can. Can you restate that so I understand what to comment on? What's the question?
No, I can't. No, I'm just kidding. No, I can't. It's about nourishing yourself. Nourish yourself when you don't want to eat and you should, and you don't want to go somewhere and you could, and you want to get out of bed but you can't, so you envision yourself moving the covers and actually putting your feet down, and you're walking to the bathroom to take a shower because you haven't been out in 3 days, or maybe, I'm not saying if I showered or not, or maybe it's another person, but whatever. Yeah.
Okay, I'll answer that question in the form of a story. Every answer is in the form of a story. Okay, so I'm going to answer that question with this. This is what I got when I finished my marathon and my ultramarathon in Antarctica. It's a medal. And one of the things that, and I finished, in the marathon, there were 9 runners, and I finished in 9th place. I finished dead last, okay? Now, most people would look at that and they'd go, well, that's not very good, right? You want to be first. I didn't care. This to me is like an Olympic gold medal, because
wow.
And it's an Olympic gold medal because my goal in going to Antarctica was to walk in the shoes of my heroes and to struggle. I actually wanted to struggle because that's what I was looking for. Believe me, it was a struggle. But here's how this parlays into an answer. Every single person, everybody has an Antarctica. Everybody is running for something. And I think what this gets at is, if you're really struggling to get up, you've got to ask yourself the question, what's my gold medal, right? What is it that I want to learn, do, or become? This is what drives human beings. Human beings are driven by one of 3 things. What am I going to learn? What am I going to do? And what am I going to become? And if you can answer those questions, now you have incentive. Now you have a reason to get up, because the short answer to the question is you have to have a reason, right? You have to have a reason. You're not just going to do it for no reason, especially if it's hard. You're not going to go in the freezer for 2 years. You're not going to go to Antarctica. You're not going to get up and go to your job or do something that you have to do just because it's there. You got to have a reason to do it. People have to know that reason. And that's very difficult for people to answer sometimes.
So it's what's your Antarctica?
Absolutely. Everybody's driven by something. Something. I don't know what it is. Generally, it's in the field of what am I going to learn, do, or become.
All right. So mine is build positive social relationships. With the last, since March 11th with the COVID, there's some people couldn't see their loved ones. Some people couldn't go to work. Some people couldn't open a can opener, whatever. And the way I see it is personally, and then maybe you can address it if you want to or not, is that with social media, just because they're friends with you on Facebook does not mean they're friends.
Correct.
Okay? I mean, just because you talk to them every day and, you had a bubble tea with them, how would you address that? Because, I mean, you must know some very successful people. You must know everybody has their story. Could you just share that answer with us?
There's an expression in life that a lot of people have heard that's really true. Many acquaintances, few friends. It's very true. I have thousands of connections on social media sites, thousands. I don't know a lot of them. Out of those thousands of connections, very few friends. Very few friends. The friends are the ones you can call in the middle of the night when there's a problem. They're the ones that will call you and find out how you're doing in the middle of a hard circumstance, right? There are very few people you can actually have a real discussion about really hard things in life. I mean, I'll give you an example. On Tuesday, my dad had to go to the hospital. He lives in Virginia, and he had to go to the hospital. And the first person I talked to outside of my wife, the first person I talked to about this was a friend of mine in St. Louis. He's a CEO of a manufacturing company. And he's not a customer, but he's a friend. He's a good friend. And this guy's name is Mark. I could call this guy in the middle of the night about anything. I mean, I could, and he would take the call and he would listen. We spent probably an hour on the phone the other day. And most of the hour, we were talking about our parents. We were talking about the things we'd learned from our moms and our dads and all that stuff. And
so nice.
It was a great discussion. And I hung up the phone and I'm like, boy, Mark is more than a friend. Mark is like a good friend. This is like, and I wrote something on Facebook and I said, many acquaintances and few friends. I said, take time to feed the few, because the few are what really matter in life. And I said, man, Mark is one of the few in my life, and everybody has those few. And my advice is feed the few, right? Take time, feed the few, because there aren't many of them. Take time to feed them, to feed those relationships, because those are the only ones that really count when you need them the most.
Do you cook? Speaking of feeding, do you cook yourself?
I've learned. Yes. In fact, Angela and I like to experiment with different recipes. She'll look it up online and we'll go through and we'll find the ingredients, or we'll buy them if we don't have them. We'll try stuff. And then every once in a while, we'll take something, we'll go, let's add a little more of this and let's try this. I mean, I'm that kind of person. I'm the type of person that doesn't want to measure it and all that stuff. I just want to throw it in. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So we like to do stuff like that. And it's worked out pretty well. It's kind of fun.
Especially now with the pandemic. I mean, everybody.
Well, yeah. Yeah, you got to stay home and eat. Therefore, you're kind of forced.
I was telling my Rebecca that I cooked a ham the other day because I couldn't sleep. So it was like 3 a.m. Oh, I'll bake my ham and I'll have it for lunch the next day, right? So
you cooked the ham at 3 o'clock in the morning?
3 o'clock in the morning, I couldn't sleep. So anyway, I got this marinade. It was garlic, and I saw those little potatoes, those really little ones that you put butter on, and they're really good. So I put the ham in. I said, I'll just throw the whole bottle on the ham. So I did that, and I wasn't hamming around.
That's funny.
I forgot about the ham, and I burned it. I was going to take it to Leanne for work, but I had to throw it in the garbage.
Oh, geez.
Oh, yeah, it was bad. What was my next one? Find your purpose in life. Okay, my purpose. I didn't know my purpose until I really found God, because I was not knowing how wonderful my life could be if I changed the way I thought about things. I changed the way I felt about things. I changed my life so that I would do service and help the church, and and everybody has their issues about the church, but at the end of the day, it's my faith and it's my beliefs, and I can do whatever I want. You know what I mean? Like, it's just me. So
Exactly.
I feel that I didn't really know my purpose because I used to do sales and marketing hardcore. I used to work for Susan Sweeney. I don't know if you've ever heard of Susan. She's an internet marketing expert. I did her speaking engagement. She charged 10,000 US for a half a day, 15 US for a full day. And then I developed a boot camp. And what we did is 30,000 US for 2 days. And we got it. I dressed her up in military fatigue and put a helmet on her and said, go to your boot camp. So she did, and we did really well. And but now it's changed because of what happened with the homelessness over the last, say, since I've been in Halifax for 4 years. I used to live in the country, and then coming to Halifax in particular, with all the problems with poverty and no doctors and just everything that's going through homelessness and things like that. I mean, as I walked up the steps to Absent House, I thought, this isn't happening to me. As they opened the door, and I had 3 bags, and this was my new home, and I said, I'm all alone. So your purpose now, my personal purpose, is to help give. The more you give, the more you will receive blessings. The more you try to listen and understand what people are trying to say to you, instead of talking all the time, and just take maybe a couple of minutes to say, I'm listening, and shut up. You know what I mean? Like, just give somebody a chance to tell their story, because maybe they never had that chance. And that's why I'm doing this, because I know everybody's had people that have died in their lives and things like that, and what happens because of life and everything. But at the end of the day, if you're not, and I know I'm guilty of this too, because I have personality disorder, and I was in mania and psychosis all like for the last year, and being homeless. But do your purpose. It doesn't matter about the money. The money will come. The money will come because God will bless you. God will bless you because you're a blessing to others.
I've always seen money like that. I go out in front of businesses all the time, and one of the questions I get asked all the time is, how do I incentivize my people? How do I motivate my people? Right?
Exactly.
Now, the knee-jerk reaction of how to do this in a business is money, right? That's the knee-jerk reaction. Money is not the real issue. It might be the stated issue, but it's not the real issue. And there's a big gap between the real issue and the stated issue. And you got to understand, money is a byproduct. If you do the right things, you'll get paid, right? Assuming that you provide a good service or you make a good product, you'll get paid, okay? But the focus has to be other people first. Other people first. And, the irony is, the businesses that focus on the other people first, they make more, right?
Right.
And they make more money because they're not focused on making money. I have more stories of corporations that are wildly successful because they've focused on their employees and their customers, and they've given to those people first.
Give back.
Right? So I think one of the principles that's really important is make sure other people get paid first. Make sure other people get paid first. If your focus is on them, you'll get enough of what you need, right? If you don't have the attitude that the world's big enough for more than one person, get out of the game, right? Because if it's not, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time.
So practice skills. Can you maybe give us a takeaway, something that we could, put on the vision board, like Rebecca said, and take it home. Take it home.
A skill, is that what you're talking about?
Well, practice skills, like, for instance, okay, I want to read more. So in 66 days, if I do it every day as a routine, I'm going to have a habit in 66 days. So what I'm asking you is, can you create some 66-day habits with practical skills for what you've learned in your journey?
I would say focus on doing a little bit consistently every day. Again, I'm going to go back to him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, focus on just doing a little bit, but doing it consistently, right? You've heard the expression in real estate, it's location, 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 right? We hear that in real estate.
Yeah.
Well, in answering your question about skills that are really important, consistency, consistency, consistency. Consistency is the most important ingredient in life, because the more consistent we are, consistent in communicating with our spouse, communicating with our kids, communicating with our employees, the more consistent we are about investing money if we're trying to plan for retirement, right? That's why they always say like $5 a week, you know, because it's not the amount of money people invest, it's the consistency of the effort over decades of time that really ends up building the money. And I think it's consistency that is always the most important thing. So find a way to never stop and be consistent in the right pace every day. That's the most important thing, I think.
How so though? Like for me, I'm trying to, well, I mean, I want to lose weight. I want to read. I want to, I want to do a lot of things, but if I get too many things on my little list there, I'm not going to do them. So what I'm trying to do is like some practical tips that you can say now that I can implement. And then like 66 days from now, I'm going to say, hey, you know what? When you told me to do that, I was able to walk every day. I was able to journal in my book. I was able to read scriptures, and I was able to listen to my music and watch CBC. You know what I mean?
Okay, to give you an example of what you just said, you talk about reading.
Right.
One paragraph a day, not a chapter, not a book. That's too much. One paragraph a day. If you're not a reader, a paragraph's a lot.
Right.
It's the consistency of doing it for the 66 days that'll turn you into a reader. It's not how many chapters you can read today, because if you can't do the amount in question consistently for 66 days, it's too much. That's why I say a paragraph a day. Start there, right? If you're talking about losing weight, right? It's not, hey, I have to lose 100 pounds this year. That's too much, right? People can't think that big. Let's focus on what I can do today. So today, what I can do is I can drink 8 glasses of water, for example. Maybe today I'm just 8 glasses, right?
Yeah.
And if I do the 8 glasses over time, guess what happens to the weight? It comes off, right?
Is that the key though? Do you think water?
I think in terms of diet, I think drinking water is probably one of the single most important habits that people can have. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Because most people don't drink enough.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say intake of water increases your metabolism, and it replaces the hunger that we sometimes have. A lot of times when you say, I feel hungry, what you really are is you're dehydrated and you're actually looking for water, but you don't know it. Therefore, I eat. And if I eat, it makes me more dehydrated. And then I feel like I need more, and you just keep going and going and going, and you have problems. Water is really important. Yep.
My friend out there in Cyberland, Leanne Williams, has asked, don't set yourself up for failure. I can't do this, think and stink. And then boom, the next thing you know, you're on a bus. What do you think?
You want me to speak to that?
Yes, please.
Okay. I think failure can be the best teacher out there. I'm not saying go so far out on a limb that you're going to fall off and hurt yourself. But what I am saying is don't let the fear of failure stop you from trying. Okay, there's an old saying that I live by that says sometimes we have to go a little bit too far in order to know how far we really can go. In other words, there's a balance between, okay, here's my limit versus here's too much. Well, where's the balance? Exactly. I don't know where the balance is. I mean, if we knew where the balance was, we wouldn't even have to talk about it. But I think it's fair to say that failure and mistakes can be the greatest teacher in the world. They really can be. I think the key is don't repeat them. right? So in other words, if I try something and it doesn't work, the question now before I start doing it again and again is, well, what did I learn? If I learned something, now I can take that insight into the next attempt and maybe do something a little bit differently. And that may work or it may not work. And if it doesn't work, okay, fine. Let's try it again. So I would say, don't let the fear of failure stop you, because failure can be the greatest teacher in the world. Now, I'm not advocating run into the brick wall at 100 miles an hour and crash the car. That's not what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
But what I am saying is don't let that fear stop you from trying things you've not done.
Brett Zulula, I hope I pronounced it correctly. Are you a follower or a leader in your own life? No insult. They're asking.
Meaning in my life? Meaning in my life?
It's all about you. Are you a follower or leader in your own life? No insult.
If it's A or B, I'm a leader. And the reason I say that is because I'm the type of person who's not afraid to be myself. I mean, that's why I don't make a very good employee. An employee has to follow rules and regulations. I don't do that. Okay. I'm just not going to do that. I'm more of a renegade. I'm going to figure it out myself. I'm going to do it my way. And, you know, I know that I'm going to break all the rules. I'm going to really upset the HR people and I'm going to get the attorneys all nervous. Okay. Because I'm going to do things that are kind of off the wall. But you know what? It works for me. So I think all of us have a responsibility to lead. Not everybody's a leader, but everybody is responsible to lead. Meaning this, every single day, all of us have to respond to change. We have to make decisions on our feet in real time. We have to respond to circumstances that are fickle and unfavorable and that change. Well, those decisions that we have to make on a day-to-day basis are decisions of leadership, to lead ourselves.
That's right.
Not necessarily to lead other people, but just to lead ourselves. So I think there's a leader within all of us that has to be responsible, respond to change, and make hard decisions every single day. That's called being a leader.
I have the top 10 most stressful jobs. I'll leave this point. Can I just do this or do we got to go? I don't know. The top 10 most.
No, can I add to that?
Oh, sorry.
Anne,
go ahead.
Can I add? No,
Sure.
Can I add to what he just said, though?
Sure.
You just made a good point, Mike. And you repeat what you just said there. A leader, about being a leader or a follower.
Well, not everyone is a leader by definition, but everybody is responsible to lead, meaning make decisions in the heat of the moment, respond to change, deal with circumstances that are fickle and unfavorable. That's called leading. And that we are all responsible for every single day.
And I you know, it might look like I'm disagreeing in a little way, but here's what I find though, Mike, about the vulnerability of constantly looking or leading is, and you would know this, and I know this isn't what you were saying, but is sometimes leading or being a leader ends up being such a, you know, habit, and which is great because I consider myself a leader too in a lot of areas, but I also found that it was the best deflection against what I truly had to deal with. In other words, I got used to being a leader, a very good one, but I also found that after a while, what happened was I got so used to being in the leader position at the top that I wasn't taking that transparent time to go to the core and deal with what I really had to deal with. And I really found that if you truly are able to do that, I mean, you should never be the one in the room that knows everything, because once you are, you're not growing. But I really find that sometimes if we're constantly leading and we're not leaving ourselves open to some vulnerabilities, in other words, learning from others. So I just didn't want the audience to think that's what you were, and I know that's not what you were getting at, but I found in my personal life, you know, I always took the leadership role, but sometimes we have to take a back seat, even if we don't agree with who's in front of us, and go, hey, you know, this is my chance to grow. Let's take a back seat for just a moment, a rest, a reprieve, and let's not use being a leader as a deflection.
You're absolutely right. And I don't think those two items are necessarily mutually exclusive, meaning I can still be a leader, meaning taking responsibility for my decisions, making hard decisions in the moment and responding to change and doing all the things I have to do to lead myself. I can still do that while I keep my ego in check. Because I think what you're talking about here is ego,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And if ego starts to take over, forget it. We're done. Now, here's the irony of ego. Ego is like a steroid, okay? You know, you've heard the word steroid.
Yes.
And the negative connotation of a steroid is it's bad. Because we think about this in sports, right? We think people that abuse it and all that. You're right. If you abuse steroids and take them for the wrong reason, it'll kill you. And athletes have died from it. Yeah. But do you realize that there's hospitals right down the street from me, and people right now in that hospital are being given steroids, and those steroids are saving their life. So steroids, when used properly and kept in check, save people's lives. But when it's unchecked and used for the wrong reason, it kills people. Ego is the exact same way. Ego is necessary. Ego is part of the human drive. The human drive to solve problems and accomplish things that are challenging. That's partly what's necessary. However, the caveat is it's got to be kept in check, right? The element of humility has to be a part of the picture. Otherwise, ego gets out of control, and then we are in the scenario that you just described.
What about the id?
And you end up standing in your own way.
You do. Sometimes you're your own biggest enemy, which is really ironic. I mean, there's enough enemies out there.
Yeah.
Why do I have to put myself in that picture and preclude myself from being successful? You're right.
Yeah.
I love that you just said that, because, you know, Anne, we were talking about this the other day, and ego is the trip that befalls us all. You know, whether you're a Bible reader or not, beware that he that thinks he is standing does not fall. I mean, that applies to everything in life. Once you think you're the hot cake of the party, well, get ready, brace yourself, buckle up, because somebody's about to show you that you're not. And I've learned that the hard way. And then I also have learned the hard way that once you're a leader and you're leaning on that so much that you're not, no one's there for you when you have your dark moments. No one's there for you because all along you haven't really let anyone in to see the real you. So all of a sudden, don't cry a river if you wonder why you have anxiety and panic and nobody's there for you. You kind of built that whole trail yourself.
Yeah, you're right. We're looking at a 4-day work week. And to get motivated to go to a 4-day work week where you're going, 40 hours in 4 days as opposed to 5, you're getting the same amount of money, but you get that day where you can, go biking or whatever you may do. Having said that, the 10 most stressful jobs are taxi drivers, public relations, senior corporate executives, newspaper reporter, event coordinator, police officer, airline pilot, and firefighters. How are they going to adjust to that kind of a 4-day? And what happens if we need their services?
Well, take firefighters for an example, right? Fire doesn't know Thursday from Sunday.
Right.
So you're right. Somebody 7 days a week has to be ready to fight the fire. Well, I think it's fair to say there's something called rotation. I could serve as a firefighter for 4 days. Rebecca could come in and serve for 3 days. You could come in, right? We can rotate. So somebody can always be on the clock. It just doesn't have to be the same people. But I think in general in business, I think what most good business owners care about is not so much the schedule that people are working, but rather, are we getting results? Are we getting the job done? And I think most good business owners would say, I don't care if you do it in 1 day or in a week. I don't care if you do it from Hong Kong or the moon or home or the office. As long as the job gets done, I don't really care. And that's where I think we have to move towards. Businesses have to continue to move towards performance. Performance is what counts. Whether we provide a service or we make a product, it's performance. And if I can get my people to provide world-class performance, I don't care whether they're doing it in 3 days, 4 days, or 19 days, as long as it gets done. And I don't care where they're doing it from.
Thank you so much for that. Do you have any final thoughts for the audience? Maybe somebody might want to ask one last question directly. I leave it over to you, Mike.
No, I, the other thing too, when you're talking about all these items, leave some room for fun. I think we sometimes forget to leave room for fun in a world where there's so much responsibility and there's so much work and there's so much stuff that's difficult. Make time for things that are fun. I've done that more this past year. I'm a big rock concert fan. I like rock, like real rock music. Okay.
Who do you like? I like AC/DC. Bad out of Highway to Hell.
I'll tell you, one of my very favorite bands of all times comes from Canada, a band called Triumph.
Oh, they're old, Mike. You're 80.
Yeah, well, you're talking to, I'm dating myself here, okay? So this is going back to the 70s and the 80s, okay? I'm a big fan. I like rock music, and I work hard. I mean, I do my job 7 days a week, but I've made more time in the last year for concerts because I like to do them, and I like to go, and I make time in my schedule to go and fly there or drive there and go see these bands because, a lot of these bands, they're getting older and they're not going to be able to do this forever. So I realize it's now or never. So make time for fun. Make time doing the things that you really like to do.
Ringo Starr's 80th birthday coming up. They're going to have a potluck.
Isn't that incredible? Wow.
80. He's 80, man. That's like, wow.
And these, a lot of these bands, they're still playing like a hardcore schedule.
I know.
70 and 75 and 80 years old. They're still out there playing like they're 25. It's incredible.
They were born to be wild.
It's amazing.
I know.
Make time to do the things you love.
That's right. And enjoy everything that you do. Rebecca, did you have any last words before we sign off from Halifax? I can't hear you. She's gonna change it.
Oh, well, I just want to say thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both
this
for having
podcast, we do 20 to 30 shows a week, and I just by the looks of me here tonight, I wasn't planning on being on here, but I'm so great. It was the way it was the way it should have. It was the way the universe said it had to go down, and it said get your arse on that show. So I'm just really grateful, Mike, for your. This was one of my favorite podcasts in months, and I love all of them.
Thank you. I'm just grateful.
And I really hope we have you back.
Yes.
Oh, there's more stories. We can get into more stuff. I'll introduce you to my two cats. This is one of my kitty cats. It's a little hard to see him there. I'll introduce you to Shackleton and Yosemite.
I was putting up pictures of him.
I saw that. I saw there's Yosemite and Shackleton. Yeah, they're my buddies.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do it again. There's more stories and
nice.
Oh yeah.
Well,
in Canada, you should know. In Canada, you should know, Mike, that we don't really have a clock. We just, we roll with it, right? So,
yeah.
Thanks, eh?
Yeah.
No, that's very cool. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much for your time. And I'm so honored to have met you. You're remarkable. And do you have any single friends?
I don't know anybody that lives near you, as I've never been there.
Just inbox me. I can travel.
Yeah.
I look forward to meeting you.
I want to say thank you to Ann Edwards, too.
When I come to Nova Scotia, I look forward to meeting you. I've never been to Nova Scotia, and I'm sure I'll get.
You're invited. I mean, if you didn't have your wife, you could stay here. But you're married.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome.
God bless.
Thank you very much, you
Okay, guys. Take care.
Good
Have
night.
a great evening, and say hello to your wife. Say hello to your wife for us.
Will do.
And you can.
This broadcast is officially over, brought to you by Ripple Effects Canada and Ripple Effects Cape Breton. Thank you all viewers for watching tonight. We just want to acknowledge some of our viewers tonight because viewers are really what makes things spin at Ripple Effects. Oh my lordy, look at my hair. Anyway, Leanne Williams, Brett Zazula, Pam McNeil. Hello, Pam. Who else do we have on here tonight? So many viewers, you guys. And you know what? The podcast, I got lost in it. Thank you so much for joining us. And please join us again. We have so many shows coming up. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your input. Thank you for always letting us know you're watching. You truly are what make Ripple Effects and all of us come together and connect. Thank you. Have a great evening.